Hello, this is Quaz. I'm here to review the match I had against Acrata for the finals, the Puzzle Strike tournament we just finished. It was a very close match. He chose to go with Lum. I started out with Troc. The first game I don't have the replay for, but we did 3 games as Troc versus Lum, and I switched to Jaina for the last 2. I'm going to go over a couple of the Lum versus Troc games. The Jaina versus Lum games weren't as interesting. They basically came down to Lum whiffing on a couple of his jackpots in very unfortunate ways where he never should have, really worried about it. Plenty of gems to get a jackpot with, and then he missed and basically fell so far behind early that Jane was able to just come by and double crash to win. And those games, were unfortunate, but in these games, I have the second and third Troc vs. Slum games I'll go with. The first one was also pretty interesting. I don't have that replay, but in that one, Troc was able to get a double crash gem pretty early and use Giant Growth to throw a 4 gem into his gem pile, which is always a really crushing move. If you can do that and double crash on that turn, you can just really wipe somebody out, and it caught Acrata off guard. So that was the first game which I won, and then these 2 games, Acrata actually beat me with pretty sound strategy where he used red chips to counter some of the ways Troc was trying to grow and get very powerful. So let's just go through these games really quick. Okay, so Lum is designed to draw extra chips and get an engine going. That's his plan. Troc's plan is to grow using Giant Growth, which allows him to add additional gems into his gem pile. He can use that offensively if he needs to, or to thin his deck. He can also use more shiny to thin his deck, and he can use Beast Unleashed once he's got 6 gem pile total, which allows him to be very powerful with extra draws. So he can have a thin deck with extra draws. He can usually play powerful trips often, and Lum gets to play more chips because he gets to draw them. So it's an interesting interaction between these two, and the games are very interesting. So we'll go through this quickly. Lum buys a Combine early, which is important because it's discard Panda's Bargain if he buys it in the future. So getting it first turn is really important. Now he can get his Panda Bargain up, which allows him to draw extra chips. Troc also has a Giant Growth purple buy restriction, so we both have a purple buy restriction. But Panda's Bargain is so essential for Lum's play that it's more important for him to get his Combine early. So he gets his Panda Bargain up, buys his red chips. We'll see Lum here going for a deep red strategy, whereas Troc's trying to get a thinner deck with better chips, but unfortunately this red strategy is very powerful, and I'm having a really hard time fighting it off. So Troc gets his 1-2 punch early. There, if you've noticed, I did crash, which you're like, well, why did I crash there? If I want to be at 6 gem pile height, shouldn't I be like saving up for a 6 gem pile? But I crashed there because I have Beast Unleashed in my hand. I can't play it. And I can use Giant Growth, and next turn I'm not going to be able to get to play Beast Unleashed, it won't be in my hand. So there, crashing didn't really affect anything. So usually Troc does not want to early crash, but sometimes it doesn't matter. So here we go, I get Training Day. Training Day helps me get around the buy restriction to get these purples, and also is a good ender for my brown arrows. Lum starts his attacks and gets a Combine off. Soon he's going to be very threatening with a 3 or a 4 gem in his gem pile. And if I'm going to be at 6 or more, I'm always going to be threatened to be knocked out with it. Thing with Troc is he always has to try to be at 6. So if you got a 4 gem and Troc's sitting at 6, you can always threaten to kill him if he's not got an answer. He usually has an answer though, but it's still a threat you always want to have. So I get around my purple buy restriction, get the Combine. Also, I don't need tons of gems in my hand, so trading a gem for a Combine is always really good. And here, I'm already looking at Lum with a 3 gem, so I'm gonna have to always consider the fact that he might just knock me out. Whereas Lum is sitting pretty, he's not going to be in danger of being knocked out anytime soon. So I'm finally at 6 gems. I can play Beast Unleashed. I can get a Combine. This is looking like a very good start for me. I get to play more Shiny, which is good for pile control. And then I get a Training Day to get a 1 into a 2. Later I can turn that 2 into a Crash Gem if I need to. But now I gotta start dealing with these attacks. So he's got 3 attacks this turn, and then he'll actually get a jackpot afterwards too. So these are pretty brutal. The more purple gems I can have in my hand, the less damaging this will be, because I can always discard 1 purple gem instead of 2 other chips. So it's something that I'm going to have to try to get. But dealing with 3 or 4 or even 5 attacks in a turn sometimes is going to be very difficult for me to handle. Especially because he could always just 4 crash me and knock me out if I'm not careful as well. So he gets his dashing strike there. He's now got a bunch of purples. I crash him for 2 because I'm worried about him combining and crashing a 4 at me and knocking me out. He does do that. And now I have to consider that, you know, I can survive, but I'm always going to be close to the edge here. And I can't use Giant Growth anymore, which is something that Troc really relies on, because I can't afford to be adding more things to my gem pile when I'm already over 10. So I do use Training Day to get a Crash Gem, which allows me to crash 2 and get under 10. This looks pretty good for Troc. Usually once he's able to survive the first 4 crash at him, he's able to really stabilize with a thinner deck and good answers to everything. But Lum has basically endless attacks coming my way, so he is actually not in a bad spot either, even though he doesn't have the 4 gem in his pile. He uses Color Panic there, gets rid of my Crash Gem, hoping that I don't have an answer to get, you know, ante to 10 and lose. That's one way to just die here, is to go to 10 and have no answer from the ante. So even if he doesn't even attack me, I could still lose. So he gets a Thinking Ahead, and now look at this beauty. Chip damage, Color Panic, chip damage, dashing strike, dashing strike. I guess the only thing is if he wants to play both of these dashing strikes, he has to whiff on the Color Panic. But it's insane. I could actually have 5 attacks coming my way right now. So I use chip damage. He gets rid of stuff he's not going to play anyway. I get dashing strike, more shiny to get the pile control. And here is just another brutal attack where I'm facing 5 attacks probably. So he doesn't get the second red for dashing strike, but still, that was pretty devastating. And now I'm at 10 gems, and I have to again survive. I can do it. And here I crash 2. If I'll go back a little bit. I kind of wanted to crash 1 here, but the thing to worry about if I crash 1, if you look at my hand, I got nothing else, and he knows I won't have an answer. If I crash 1 here, he'll counter crash this 2 and just knock me out. So I have no choice but to crash the 2. And that's why I had to get this Combine. I guess I could have maybe done something with this to get a dashing strike, but really the Combine and the crash I think was the best play here. But I have no way of holding on to anything more than just 1 gems in my pile, just to survive. So now he's got more attacks, and he's got this mega power boost being at 10 where he can play Living on the Edge. It washes his brown arrow and lets him crash. I'm going to be at 10 here, he's going to be at 7, and I have to find a way to survive again. So it's just a matter of survival for me now. I don't have a lot of ways to use Giant Growth, which would be nice if I could get something to thin my deck or be aggressive, but it's just very difficult right now. And here he's got another 4 attacks coming at the very least, so it's looking pretty scary for me. Alright, so I do survive. We're both at 9. It's funny that an ante can kill either one of us. It's a pretty good turn in my hand. But now I gotta deal with 5 or 4 attacks. Just it's gonna be brutal. The number of attacks he's hitting me with is just unsustainable. So here after his 4 attacks, I'll show you what my hand's looking like. Still have the ability to do some pile control, but I'm gonna end up buying a wound. And it's looking pretty good for Acrata, who's gonna have another turn of 5 attacks because he's going to have Living on the Edge, so all these attacks will be played. Plus, I'll probably play 1 or 2 other chips. So he's at a power level now that I won't be able to cope with. So dealing with attacks, I'm running down to my last couple of chips here, and that's it. I'm not going to be able to survive. So one funny thing to note here, I'll be at 10 pile height, so there's no way for me to survive, and he knows this, and I'm sure you calculate a lot of this out. But the funny thing is to look at his hand next turn. Let's say I somehow miraculously survive this by magic. He would actually then ante to 10 and be knocked out next turn. So it was a very close game. One of those ones where no matter what we both did, it was just a matter of surviving. And then Lum here, probably his biggest thing is he only had 1 crash gem. So if I managed to stabilize, I would have had an advantage later on. But Lum's attacks were too brutal. I couldn't withstand them. So that was the end of this game. For counter picks, I did chip damage. I got rid of that for an X copy, which I thought was really good for Trox, since his brown arrow could be washed into anything he wanted. So let's go through that one real quick. And now the starts of these games look very similar. We'll watch it from Trox's point of view this time. So Lum, there's a little graphical thing there. So Lum starts out with another Combine buy first turn. That's an incredibly good start. Him getting a Combine early just gives him so many options for having strong hands. Okay, so I get a nice handful of money. I'll be able to buy this X copy next turn. I think I pressed the next button too many times, so it's catching up. Alright, so there we go. So I add a giant growth ante there. I'll be at 6 soon, which is good because I'll need to play Beast Unleashed. So I managed to get to 6 at the right cycle at the right time, which is a key Troc maneuver. But if you look at Acrata, he's got a strategy revolving around Combines and Reds again. So it'd be similar to last game, but this game hopefully the X copy will help me out. So I'm at 6, use Beast Unleashed, get the X copy. So already the X copy buy and Beast Unleashed are coming together, and I am getting major value out of the early chip buys I've had, even just in my first couple turns. And this is a chip that's going to be useful the whole game. Definitely I felt very strong after that turn, but as Acrata won this game, you'll see he had some good strategy to go on. So, gonna have another good buy. Unfortunately, not enough for a double crash gem. If I'd been able to play this more shiny, I would have a double crash gem. He was able to get rid of it. So, good play on his part. I don't think he was playing around me buying a double crash gem, but was a good play. So I add one to my pile. I get a Dashing Strike, which is a good chip for X copy, either played before or after the X copy. So I could either X copy that one or use it before an X copy to get an extra gem. But you see here I'm at 6 pile height. He's going to have a 4 gem just like last time, so he's already threatened to knock me out at any given time. So I'm going to always have to defend with accurate play. Especially because he can color panic away my crash gem, and if I don't have another one, I will end up getting knocked out. So here's an example of how you do X copy first and then Dashing Strike, since I didn't have any chip to use X copy on afterwards. This Blues Are Good doesn't do anything except defend. Get a combine. Here I had seven gem buy. It's possible I should have bought another X copy, or maybe an option select. But I felt the combine was important because I didn't have one, and I was going to need it soon. So, especially because I'm facing down a 4 gem in his pile. Okay. So, not much going on for me this turn. I do need the pile control, so I go down to 5. Next turn I'll ante to 6 to be able to play Giant Growth, and I was hoping to get Beast Unleashed, which would have been very powerful, but I didn't get it, which is a real bummer because it would have allowed me to play my whole combo: Giant Growth, Beast Unleashed, X Copy, Dashing Strike, and Crash Gem. So I would have been able to play all of those, but without that in my hand, I only get to play either the Crash or these two. So he has me get rid of this, and he Dashing Strikes me. He whiffs on the jackpot, but he had nothing else to play, so it was not impactful. Staying at 6 is good for the extra draw, and I want to keep this for some offense and defense in the future. But Lum has nothing to worry about. He's got an incredibly strong gem pile position. And here I get what's actually considered a very powerful combination, where X copy option select lets me just pick any 2 chips, 5 or less, giving me a ton of options, including combine and crash gem attacks. Very powerful, and probably one of the best combinations for X copy to do, outside of like a double crash gem maybe. So he also can't color panic away an option select. That's a very important key here. So it is somewhat a counter to his color panic strategy. So he gets another combine, getting around his buy restriction. I still haven't managed to get this up, but I'll finally get it up again here. And I get the X copy option select combo. And here, I think if I had thought longer, I would have picked differently. Good exercise to think, just, what would you pick? You have 2 choices. Sometimes the order is important as well. But here, I should have known what's in his hand. Like, I can clearly remember him buying crash gems and combines. Oh, maybe not crash gems, but he has 2 crash gems and 2 combines in his hand. And I chose Color Panic, and I actually misplayed that. I should have known he had 2 combines here. I should have known he wasn't going to have to get rid of this crash gem. But I thought I was going to be able to pick Color Panic as my first option, get rid of his crash gem by picking purple, and then I saw it played a combine. I was like, oh yeah, well, that's not good. And then my other action is going to have to be Crash, because since he's going to have the Crash still in his hand, he's going to knock me out with a 4. I was hoping if I could get rid of his Crash gem in his hand, I wouldn't have to use a Crash as my second option, and I could do some other option, like Dashing Strike or a Training Day, turn this into a crash or that into a crash. Um, but had to do what I had to do. Have to crash here. I'm getting knocked out because he's got the crash gem. And Lum is actually very happy to take 2 gems. The only thing I could think of is maybe I should have only crashed 1 gem, because then he wouldn't have living on the edge. So let's try and figure this out. If he hits me for 4 now, I'll be at 10. But if I had a 2 gem, I'd be 11. And my upcoming pile control is mostly going to be more shiny and dashing strike, unless I get these. So I think I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to come back from 11. But I probably would have. Almost certainly would have, actually. So I should have actually only crashed 1. So there's another mistake I made. And now he is living on the edge, where he didn't have that before. And it's very impactful because it gives him draws that are going to help him cycle. I thought it was more impactful than it was, actually. He didn't get a crazy hand. But he did get a good enough hand to really affect me. So, gets 3 there, crashes me for 4. And I mentioned even during the game, Color Panic was the wrong chip to pick last turn. And one criticism is he might have been able to realize that my blues are good as in the discard, use Color Panic to pick blue, get an extra arrow, and play the extra crash gem. I would have been able to counter crash though, so it would not have actually done him much good. Because even if he crashed me for 3, I would have crashed for 1, dashing strike more shiny, I would have survived. So maybe he calculated out that wasn't worth it, but I wasn't sure if he realized that he could have done a free extra arrow there. Although actually it doesn't get him an extra arrow, it just reveals my hand. So never mind, didn't actually do anything that I thought. Okay, so here I am at 11. Unfortunately, I can't play the Dashing Strike into the X copy to do a Crash Gem. If I had the X copy in hand, I would be in very good shape. But here, all I gotta do is combine Dashing Strike into more shiny. And as you see, I get my X copy, so I'll be in possibly good shape here, because I'll have Dashing Strike, X copy, option select. But he gets rid of my Dashing Strike, and Dashing Strikes me as it is. And then even uses another Color Panic that he gets from Training Day. Very nice play, by the way. Nice job, Acrata. To play basically 7 chips, leave me with only these 2. So I gotta play him. I finally used Giant Growth. I know I'm losing here. I know I'm not going to survive next turn, but just for the fun of it, I do this combo where I add a 2 gem, X copy, and option select. If I'd added this 3 gem and combined and done the same thing, I actually would have still been at 10, because you can't combine a 3 and a 2. So I had to add the 2 gem there. So I combine those, crash it over. It's a very powerful combination, but even getting him at 12 pile height here, there's no chance I'm going to win. He's going to just completely knock me out with a 4 crash. And that's if he has nothing better than that. So there's the 4 crash. I'm not going to be able to survive that. But he's, you know, he's adding some extra gems there just for fun. But there's no way I can survive. He knows that too. All right, so those are the matches that I wanted to show. I thought Acrata played super well these games with his attacks. His strategy worked out perfectly against Troc. And if it wasn't for a couple of whiffs on his jackpots against Jaina, then he probably would have just completely dominated me, because he had a pretty strong Lum game, I feel like. So the next 2 games, after this being 2-1 Acrata favored, I did win the next 2 with Jaina versus Lum. probably a lot of it just due with some unlucky jackpots. But good games, Acrata. This was a awesome match. Down to play again in the future, and I think probably make some more videos if I have some cool games again in any future tournaments. All right, well, have a good one. See you guys. Bye.